Sumo! One, Sumo! Let's go!
All right. This always takes me a while to kind of like warm up.
Yeah.
I think I'm talking to a camera now.
Because you're not talking to me anymore. You're talking to everyone.
But at the same time, I feel like I need to like look at you and like figure out you, read you. Like,
Right.
No, that's kind of weird. Like, what are you talking about?
Like you're losing me, dude. You're losing me. Pick off this mic and just throw it down to the ground. I'm out of here. I'm out of here. It's over. Interview done.
All right, let's start it up.
Yeah.
Going 3, 2, 1. Good. Welcome back to the Catch Up with Bryan, Sumo, Sumardi, where I feed my curiosity, and today I have a special guest.
Am I special?
You are special.
I'm special today? All right, I'll take it.
I've met you once.
One time. That's true. That's true.
We're hanging out.
Yeah.
It was that instant click.
Joseph Vivens. That's right.
Okay. Author of
the Chunky and Friends book series.
Damn.
Yep. I created it to start the conversation with kids about the importance of healthy eating and active play.
Okay.
It's something that I felt like was sorely needed out there.
Yeah.
And so I released it, and it's been doing well. Like, kids love it, adults love it, and everyone in between enjoys it too. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
I just want to break down our meeting.
Yeah.
I thought that was the coolest thing because I think literally I was just walking around. I was meeting with another entrepreneur, the physical therapist that I work with.
Oh, really?
Is that
why you were there?
Yeah, that was the reason why I was there.
I thought you were just hanging out. I thought you were just hanging out in the neighborhood, like checking out the farmer's market.
No, I literally came out of his gym. Mm-hmm. We had a little conversation, and I came out like, oh, farmer's market.
Right.
I want to meet people.
It just popped up out of nowhere. That's usually how they
And I remember, was it you that approached me, or that I was like, hey, what are you
probably
writing?
me, because like whenever I'm doing public events, I don't hide behind my table. I'm like, hey, how are you? Look, come check out what I got going on, And I probably saw like, you were wearing like a gym outfit, you know what I mean? So I like to meet other people that are in the fitness industry, health and fitness, people that tend to be fit, because the people that tend to be health conscious, because a lot of times, one, I can get a sale, and two, it's all about spreading the word. I want to make sure that the message about the book series gets out there. So so I'm sure like I saw you and I was like, hey, how are you? Let's chat for a second. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want you to break down let's say your story first.
Okay.
Let's say you're a child. Like, did you grow up around here?
I did. I grew up in Silver Spring, not too far from here.
Okay.
So to go even further back, I was born in Haiti.
Okay.
I like to say the reason why I'm an entrepreneur is because of that independent mindset that I got from being Haitian, because Haiti's the first independent black country in the Western Hemisphere.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Okay. So you're gonna learn something today.
There you go.
So I think that's where my passion for being an entrepreneur came from, because I always imagined myself doing something, creating something that was going to help other people, creating a product or a service that was going to flourish and grow into the world. And so
you knew that like out the womb.
Since I was a kid, when I asked my dad for an allowance and he was like, I don't have to pay you any bills. And I was like, oh, okay. So that means I got to go out and get it myself. And so when I was a kid, we left Haiti when I was 1. I don't remember anything about Haiti.
Okay.
Left Haiti when I was 1, and when we got to the United States, we basically lived in DC, and then we lived in Langley Park for a little bit, and then my parents, basically the immigrant story, they worked hard and ended up moving to Montgomery County, and from there, when I was about 12 and up, this is Montgomery County all the way.
That's so interesting. I think everyone in my podcast that I've interviewed lately in terms of like entrepreneurship, they've all had like either like an immigrant background, and they were just like, I didn't have anything, so I had to work for it.
And I was like, that's
so
how it is.
Amazing. And you create something so great, and then we just share it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, really, that's the story of America, period.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it was an idea, and somebody said we should, not somebody, a group of guys said we should do it.
Yeah.
Make sure all men are created equal, history, notwithstanding.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the dream of America is basically being able to provide a platform for people to come from other countries and other backgrounds, so that they can create something that's going to build on the tapestry and make America, what it is. It's beautiful.
Your liberty, you have your freedom.
Exactly. So once we came to the DC area, we were just talking about this a second ago.
Yeah.
I think what started was me. My dad was like, "Don't do it," but I did it anyway. You know, being a kid, I would just go to gas stations and start pumping gas for people. You know, and try to figure out ways to make money on my own because you know I was just like I was a kid. You know, I wanted to buy things. I wanted things for myself.
How did that go? I want to go to quick story because I heard that on the radio. Like I think probably Friday or Thursday. Because I think people from like I think it was like. It was either Jersey or Delaware. Yeah. They have people that pumping gas.
Right. But not in this area. In this area, it's like, you know, if it's a pretty cold day or a warm day or somebody's just out there, you know, I would just hang out at the gas station and be like, hey, I'll pump your gas for you. And then they would just give a tip.
Yeah, I didn't even know that until just now.
It was just one of those things that as a kid, I remember I had a friend, James, who was doing it with me. And we would just go to like different gas stations in Langley Park and just do that for, you know, a couple bucks and go buy some candy, ice cream, whatever. There was like in Langley Park, I can't remember. It's like on the corner of like Tacoma Park and Langley Park, like around Hyattsville area. There was like a Ben and Jerry's, I think it was, or a Dairy Queen. And so we would go to the gas station there, and then right after that, we'd go to the Dairy Queen. But anyway,
I got you.
I digress. So from there, we would go to, when we moved to Montgomery County, we started junior high in Montgomery County, and then I would buy gum. To sell gum to kids, you know what I mean? To sell gum at school. So I would go to the grocery store, get like a 5-pack of gum, and then sell individual pieces, you know, to the kids and a whole roll for $1. Just basically trying to make money. At the time, I didn't know what entrepreneurship was, but all of this was like laying the foundation, you know, for what I do now. Exactly. So then school came. I went to Montgomery College for a couple of years, and then I moved to Florida. Worked at the Orlando Sentinel.
Okay.
Finished at Montgomery County, went to Montgomery College, went to the Orlando Sentinel. And
you had associates from MC from college?
Yep.
In
General.
Okay.
Yeah, I always pushed for I always took the marketing classes, you know, because that's what I love being able to present stuff.
I got
to people.
Business.
Yeah,
general business.
Basically. And so once I went there, went to Orlando. I worked in the Orlando Sentinel New Business Development, and my then fiance, now wife at the time, she's a pediatrician, and she would always talk about the kids that she would see.
Okay.
And so whether the kids were big or small, the situations were the same. Like they had poor eating habits, kind of sedentary lifestyle a lot of times. And I just thought back to when I was a kid. Like I was always out and about, having fun, hanging out with people.
Right.
And I just figured that I should, I figured that I've always wanted to create a business. I should create something for kids that would inspire them the same way I was inspired. Because one of the things that really motivated me to choose more fruits and vegetables and to eat more fruits and vegetables was Popeye the Sailor. Remember Popeye the Sailor used to eat his spinach and get super strong and knock out Bluto?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, if I created characters that would inspire kids the same exact way, maybe I could make a difference and change a couple minds and change a couple lives. And lo and behold, fast forward, I created Chunky and Friends.
Okay. And then with the Chunky and Friends, they all have their specific bio characteristics.
Yes. And let me apologize to everyone right now. I do have the book in my car. I thought it was going to be an audio podcast. I didn't know it was going to be a video.
It's gonna be on both.
So we'll edit something so I could show the book too. But
some, like links. I'll put a link in the description for YouTube.
There we go. See, link in the description. How about that? The very first book that we released is called Chunky and the Obese. And it's a book about a 10-year-old boy named Chunky who goes to the doctor with his mother. And at the doctor's office, the doctor tells him he's in danger of becoming obese.
Okay.
But being a kid with a very wild imagination, he thinks he's going to transform into a monster in the shape of the letter O, an obese. So it's a real cool book with great illustrations, and it has the message that I always tell kids whenever I do book readings for them. I tell them that they're perfect exactly how they are.
Yeah.
We just want them to grow up healthy and strong.
Okay.
That's all that matters.
Like longevity, think big picture. That's the kind of thing that I've been getting into. Like I've just been reading crazy amounts ever since I'm getting more into the introspective thoughts of growing up and seeing your childhood really shapes who you are. And I've really one of my favorite questions I ask all my guests is who are the 5 people you closely associate with, and then do you believe that you're the average of those 5?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get Barbara Walters on this? Am I gonna start crying?
I don't know. To me, like I like to have that eye-opening moment.
Right. Brian's gonna make me go deep into my heart and things right now. Come on, man. Like, you're not supposed to do that. Okay, let me go ahead and get these tears ready to go. Get these tears. Now, it would definitely be the top two: my mother, father.
Okay.
I like to also, I have an aunt as well who's very inspirational. And this is going to be a little weird, but
I like weird.
One of my favorite superheroes is Superman. Superman is a real big, I feel like it's truth, justice is a very big thing for me, you know. And I identify with the story of Superman because being an immigrant, you know, he's an alien. He comes to a world and he just wants to help. You know, it's like he could take over everything if he wants. But at the end of the day, he just wants to be able to help, you know, to help people and make other people's lives better.
Right.
And it's like, you know, to me, I feel like that inherently is like the story of the immigrant period. You know, it's like, I know what it's like to be alone, and I don't want other people to feel alone. You know, and so Superman is a big one for me. And finally, like when I was a kid, I used to read a lot of Malcolm X, and I really love his thought process. I love his story of being somebody who was held down by society, and you know, being and found his way, you know, through bondage and imprisonment, found his way to come out and become a brilliant mind who only wanted to be of service to people. Now, a lot of people would argue with the methods and the ways that he did the way that he delivered his message, but at its core of it, it was all about uplifting people. And I love his turn in terms of being, you know, being, I guess you could say, one-track minded in regards to how race relations should be, but his evolution to realizing that we are all one is something that I feel like that in his personal story is something I really admired. So but yeah, like really the reason why my parents, my mother and father are top two, and they're interchangeable depending, is really because I've seen how hard they work. You know, and, you know, to raise me and my siblings, and also the love that they gave, you know, in spite of every obstacle, it was always us first.
How many siblings did you have?
I have a younger brother, a younger sister, and an older brother.
So four.
Yeah, it's four of us. Yeah, it's four of us. But we always joked around because our home, we always said that our home was like Ellis Island, because anytime somebody would be coming in from Haiti or somebody was moving from New York or wherever, our home would be the transition to spread out into the DC area. You know, it was a really cool thing to see growing up, because, you know, my parents, they really did make a lot of sacrifices to help other people find their footing in this country or even in this area. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Okay,
I have three things I can really relate to you.
Okay.
So I say first was a superhero story. I am a firm believer of, like, I'm in love with the superhero story. Like, me and my buddies, I definitely have to introduce you to one of my friends named Robbie Young. Okay. He breaks me, like, so I have my friend Robbie, my friend John, my friend Kenny. Like, we all met through, I used to work at a noodles company when I got out of high school, while I was still in high school. And we all kind of just came together. And, like, at first, he was kind of like the weird guy, because he was really into the
comic books and...
No, not just comic books, but he was more into... He liked trivial facts.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So he was one of those guys.
So my kind of guy.
Yeah.
My kind of guy.
So that's you
if it's random, I'm interested.
He breaks us down into superheroes. Like, he's really into, like, the DC comics, the Marvel.
Yeah.
He says, I'm like Aquaman. I don't know if you follow Aquaman.
Yeah, I do, but not, like, heavily. Like, like I know Aquaman on the surface level, no pun intended. But I know Aquaman on the surface level. I know what he's about. I know who he is. I know his history. Like, I know basically all comic book characters' history to some degrry. But how are you like Aquaman? He says
he relates to me with Aquaman because, like, I'm very just, like, blunt. He says I'm just as strong as Superman, which is my friend John. But I'll get to it in a second. And, but I'm just there. I want to help the world. Yeah. And I don't care, like, my recognition with it. Right. I feel like the same thing with the, like, immigrant story. Like, we want to do something to help everyone, but I don't want to really take credit. I just want to make it better.
It's about contributing. Right. You know what I mean? It's about contributing, and being part of the whole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not like putting yourself on an island, because when you're from a third world country, you know what it's like being isolated from everything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like everybody is trying to get their own. You know, you might have pockets of communities of people that are willing to help each other, but at the end of the day, it's like everybody wants to be able to eat. And it's like, in this country, there's so much abundance that we recognize that, and we're like, okay, where can we help?
Yeah.
You know, where can we contribute to make things a little bit better for other people?
Well, another thing on top of that that makes me like Aquaman, he
You could talk to fish?
I wish. I was like,
Come on.
You're gonna
say
move.
something. You're gonna do something. Just jump right now. Just jump.
Go feed your friends. But no, he's breaking me down like Aquaman and Mira.
Yeah.
They're together. So my past relationships, they were like that.
Ah.
Like, it was more like I felt very, very royal. Like from my background too, I'm Indonesian.
Okay.
My parents are immigrants. I was born here.
Okay.
So I saw exactly what you just said. Like,
Yeah.
I saw them growing up. They had to do a lot. My mom worked all day. She was like a nurse, like a for older people.
Like a nursing. She worked at a nursing home. She was a nurse, like a geriatric nurse.
Geriatric, but private. So
Okay.
she worked for specific people.
Okay,
and, stay with them.
Gotcha.
Like Monday through Friday. And
Gotcha.
on the weekends.
Home care, like home care.
Yeah, home care.
Okay.
And then my father, he still works for the embassy.
Oh, okay.
We have a little more like diplomatic.
Got diplomatic immunity.
Well, he's the driver for the
So you really are Aquaman.
I guess that's how you really broke it down. I'm like,
From two worlds right now. Like,
but then I grew up here. I was like, I'm just a regular kid.
Right.
And bringing back to the story too, like as we were growing up, our house, like somehow, like I have another group of friends. We all grew up on this street called Grandview Avenue.
Okay.
And on this strip, like everyone that went to our school, like elementary school, the middle school, lived on that one strip road.
Oh, nice.
Like it was like I had my previous podcast. We were talking about the 6 degrees of separation.
Yes. Yeah.
So basically, you could like bring everyone from that school within 6 roads of us.
Nice.
Off of that one street.
Just that one street. Like everybody knows each other who knows somebody.
Right.
Gotcha.
We always walk home from school. It'd be like a 30, 45-minute walk home.
Right.
So we would just like walk. All right, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll see you tomorrow. And then like my house was like
all the way through high school?
Yeah.
Nice.
So I think like our elementary school was probably like 20 minutes away. And then my middle school was like 30. And then I went to Newport Middle School and Einstein High School.
Okay.
So they were literally like right next to each other. Yeah.
I'm familiar with
so
the area.
Then, boom.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So like, it was like everything was just set up for me. Like to set up a community.
Yeah.
And then I think at one point we had enough money to buy a basketball hoop. So my house would be the spot.
The spot to,
If you don't got anything to do, just come over.
Everybody shoot around. Nice.
The ice cream truck always happened to stop in my corner. So you buy a couple
Everybody
ice
was
cream,
right there.
Big bursts.
Nice.
Wrap snacks.
Yeah. Nice.
And then I forgot the other thing for you. You said it was superheroes. Malcolm. Oh, you were talking about Malcolm X.
Malcolm X. Yep.
I was just reading about. What did I forget? I definitely forgot about somebody. I think it was Ryan Holiday. Robert Greene. You ever heard of the 48 Laws of Power?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So he basically went into a little anecdote that's saying like the best minds or the most creative and most insightful minds came from prisons. Because those were the times where you were always alone with your thoughts.
Right.
You had a lot of time to be alone with your thoughts.
Yeah.
And you get to think about what other people do, think, and how people interact.
Yeah.
And like I said in my story, when my mom was always away and my dad was always working, I spent a lot of time by myself.
Yeah.
I have 3 half brothers, but between me and my next brother, it's 11 years. So we didn't really.
So in so many ways, you were raised as like an only child.
Right.
In a lot of ways. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had like my necessities.
Right.
And I had like a lot of friends.
Right.
But then it didn't mean necessarily that I could connect with all of them.
Yeah.
So most of the time I'd be home listening to music and then trying to figure out how do I get out of this jail in a way.
Right.
So that's why I feel like that's how I always do it.
Yeah. It's so funny because like when I was a kid, like I would always escape into my imagination.
Okay.
Like that was my avenue. And I remember when I was I want to say maybe like 8 or 9 years old, I started writing poetry.
Okay.
That's where my love of writing came from. And I have this cousin, my cousin Margie. I would write the poetry and then I would take it up to her. And I'm sure it was just like 8 or 9 year old poetry. It was probably garbage, but she would just laud me with so much praise that I was like, what? Like, this is good? I'm going to write some more. And I think I'm sure, like I used to read a lot when I was a kid, but I'm sure that's where my love of writing came from.
I see.
And like, as I got older, I didn't know about creative writing. You know what I mean? Oh, your screen went off. I didn't know about creative writing. So I didn't know if like the fact that people write shows on TV and things like that, didn't seem like a reality. It didn't seem,
it just thought like TV shows were just there.
It's just there. You know what I mean? Exactly. And so like, you know, I would always be in my mind, in my own thoughts, and, you know, and I would write stories and things like that, but never thought about like putting it out there. You know, it wasn't until like I got much older that I was like, oh, well, you know, I can start creating my own things. You know what I mean? And that kind of led me into making music. And I think as far as like entrepreneurship, I think that's where I learned how to sell really well, because what I would do, like, it was me and a group of other guys. We all got together and decided that we were going to make music together. And so when we started making music, it was just a matter of convincing places to allow us to perform and getting people to buy the music.
What kind of music did you guys play?
Hip hop.
Okay.
Hip hop. So really, it was just like the poetry evolved from that. And
more like Tribe Called Quest?
More like Tribe Called Quest, Nas, yes. A little bit, I would say a little bit of Jay. Let me think. Who else? Mos Def. That was a lot of stuff like
Talib Kweli,
Slum Village type deal. So
I like that.
So like for me, like it was a creative outlet. Like I feel like whenever it comes to entrepreneurship, you're always scratching an itch. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you have this passion, you know that you're supposed to do something with your talent, and you're just scratching at it, trying to figure out how to make it. Like a lot of people don't know that scratching is a relief. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. And really the ointment, the way that you make yourself feel better is to actually go ahead and go after it. Right. Get that ointment, rub it in there, and keep it on there so that, you know, you can feel better. Right. But it's like with entrepreneurship, like you're always scratching at that itch because you're saying, I have this skill, I have this talent, and I should be able to do something with it. That's why I like meeting people who have a passionate hobby. Okay. You know what I mean? Like I met this guy yesterday who loves woodworking. I mean, like loves it to death. Okay. And I can tell, like, if he didn't have to worry about anything else except for woodworking and selling his woodworking pieces, he would do it. That's that itch. You know what I mean? Like he does it in his garage. He does it, goes to work, comes back home, and does the woodworking.
Does he have like a special like niche? Like he likes to make, I don't know, tables or?
Well, he was telling me how like he was telling me how he created the conversation we were having was like a video game, you know, like an arcade box. Yeah. He created an arcade box and put inside of the arcade box RAM. Not RAM, ROMs.
So he knows how to make like technology too, or like how to configure things.
Yeah, configure computers. So like he was telling me like he basically built an arcade box for a relative of his. I don't want to put his business out there, but he built an arcade box for a relative of his so that she can have like the video game. Yeah. You know, all the video games that she wants to play on this arcade box. I don't know if you remember like the set-top boxes. Set-top box. It was like it's basically like a table where you could play video games on it with a joystick. So they used to have them like at pizza stores and stuff back in the day. So it was one of those things, and he basically was telling me that he built it, and I could tell like by the look in his eyes, like it's like everything. That's life. That's life to him. He loves it.
He loves video games, and he loves creating things with his hands.
Exactly. Boom. And so it's like I always look at entrepreneurship, like I said, as like an itch that people need to scratch. You know, like it's like you know, like I said, we have a passion for something, but we just don't know how to make money off of it. You know? And so when I came up with the idea of Chunky and Friends, I was just like, at first it was kind of like, you know, I'm writing these stories. I might have a couple ideas for it. I'm just going to create these characters. Yeah. And so the first thing I did was create Chunky. And, you know, he's a slightly overweight kid, about 10 years old, who has a vivid imagination. Maybe there's a little autobiography in there. But, you know, he has a vivid imagination, and from there, it was about expanding and, you know, creating another group of characters. And so I created Candy, who loves to eat candy, Juice, who loves to drink juice, Chip, who loves to eat chips, and Gums, who loves to chew gum.
Okay. So
and
five characters.
It's 5 characters. And I created them to show kids that, yes, you might love gum, candy, juice, and chips, but just like Chunky and his friends, you can't have it all the time. You can only have it some of the times.
Yeah.
And so when I created these characters and I created this world, I was like, okay, now I'm going to try to give it to hospitals to try to see like whether or not they're interested in, you know, having it as like being a mascot of sort to help kids understand. And nobody was biting. And so I said, okay, they can't see the vision. Let me go ahead and, you know, use my skill, scratch that itch, you know what I mean, of creating and write a story.
Yeah.
And that's when I wrote the first book. And after I wrote the first book, I was like, that felt really good.
Yeah.
It was like a feeling that I used to get from making music, that feeling of creating that I used to get from making music.
Yeah.
And it gave me the confidence to put it out there, to show it to other people. You know what I mean? And once I showed it to other people, that's when I was like, okay, people are reacting to this in a way that's positive, the same way that my cousin did when I was writing the poetry.
It made you feel good.
And it made me feel good.
It made other people feel good because they're getting healthy.
Scratching that itch. You know what I mean? And then from there, I started publishing the books, and then all the way up until now. So.
Okay, let me rewind real quick. So what happens with the band? Or is it band, group, your music group?
Oh, we're still all good friends.
Okay.
Like, yeah, at one point, like the music industry got really oversaturated for me. Like to the point, and this is before digital.
Okay.
Like to the point where I was just like, I was sitting back and looking at it, and I was just like, yeah, like most of the stuff that's coming out right now is not really entertaining to me.
Are you talking about like right now? Right now?
Well, like no, even at that time. Like it was like a lot of stuff was good, but a lot of it was like, okay, so okay, kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for me. I come from, when it comes to creating and hip hop, I look at it as like jazz. Okay. Like you can't be a jazz musician and have somebody else play your instrument.
Right.
So
you have your own soul to the instrument.
It's hip hop is all about self-expression. Yes. You know what I mean? Like you can't have somebody come in and you can't have somebody sit down and say, okay, tell me how you're feeling today. And I'm going to write it down for you and then you express it. Right. You know what I mean? It's all about self-expression.
Well, I heard an interview with Tory Lanez on the Breakfast Club the other day. He's written a lot of songs for other people. Like Drake, Trey songs too. And like, people are ragging on Tory Lanez because like they saying you sound like this guy, but he wrote the songs for those other people.
Like I'm okay with like hooks. I'm okay with hooks and the production side of it. But when it comes to actual lyrics, like you know everything in between, I think that should come from the artist himself.
I agree.
You know what I mean? Because otherwise it's not you. And I feel like that's where hip hop lost its soul because so many people, not its soul, but hip hop lost its way because so many people are really dependent on sounding like the next person, sounding like what's going to sell. Yeah. To the point where it's like once upon a time it was sacrilegious to bite somebody's style, but now it's kind of like accepted. You know, like everybody kind of sounds like the Migos, you know, without any kind of variation. It's just, they're just taking people's flows.
And I think it's more about the beat because people can't really listen to songs like when they're in the club or in the car sometimes. You just want to just vibe.
Yeah. And like to me,
like that's cool, but
there's a space for everything. Right. You know what I mean? Like there's room for everything. But me personally, and you know, with the guys that I used to make music with, it was just really. It was really the music was changing at a rate where it was just like it's not fun anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's not like, I believe that if you're doing something that you love, you should be able to let it go when the time comes. Right. You know what I mean?
And that's hard too.
It is hard.
Define your actual emotion and then express it. Right. In a way that's rhythmic. Right. And like catchy.
And the thing about it, I look at my time making music as like really training for what I do now because I can come up with an idea, a story really quickly. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I can write it really quickly, whether or not it's, you know, and all of that comes with always reading, always trying to come up with the best concepts, the best ideas. And it's just like always like pen to paper, writing day and night. And so like now, whenever I sit down to write a new story or write an idea or a concept, it comes easily to me. It's just everything in between, and I've had to retrain myself too, so that I can actually write in a story format. Because as you can imagine, with hip hop, you have to be able to tell an entire narrative, an entire story in 16 bars.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So now I'm taking what is essentially a paragraph and have to stretch that idea to 50 pages about. You know what I mean. So and then the first book, I can look at the first book that I wrote really critically in the sense of like, this was a strong book, but I could do better. And the second book that I released, The Candy Conundrum, that's where I was like, okay, now I'm kind of hitting a stride. And I'm excited for the next book that I'm going to release, because I know that next book is going to be something just mind-blowingly good.
So do you have 3 out now or 2?
We have 2 books and an activity book out right now. The Candy Conundrum we just released last year. I don't think when I met you I had that book yet.
I think you were talking about it.
Yeah.
But you said it wasn't actually
right. It wasn't. We released it last year, and we've already, in the time frame that since we released it, we've doubled the sales of the previous book. So it's
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. It's the book series the book is all about dental health, teaching kids the importance of brushing, flossing, and choosing fruit over candy. And one of the beautiful things that I've been able to do is that I've been able to ask dentists to purchase copies for kids, so that I could distribute out in the neighborhood so that kids can get it for free, so that I don't have to, you know, if I meet a kid that's like, I really want this book, but mom and dad, they don't have the money. You know, I could be like, it's yours. You know, sometimes the dentists that purchase it,
and it's like word of mouth afterwards.
It's word of mouth too, and also I put their marketing material in the book too. The dental office. So on the front it has like a sticker with their practice name, and on the inside, and also if they give me like toothbrushes, floss, whatever branding that they want to do, it's all for them to do.
I see.
So so I mean, I at the end of the day, I love the creative process. You know what I mean, and being able to create and scratch that entrepreneurial itch that I didn't know, or the talent that I didn't know that I wasn't really acknowledging, has been more than a blessing for me. You know what I mean? And I'm sure you probably experienced that too, doing what you're doing with the podcast. And
like for me, sometimes I just love meeting people, and then like I kind of like what you said too. Like you meet so many people, sometimes you kind of like forget some people, or like not that you forget, it's like you don't have enough time to like reconnect with certain people. And I want to have it like on like basically the cloud. So if I need to come back, like, oh shit, I do know this guy. Or like, hey, I'm thinking about writing a book. Boom. Because I think also with my podcast, I've always wanted like a mentor. I wanted someone to like be there to guide me and do my ventures. But I never had that. So I feel like if I put a collective of people that are like specialized in certain fields,
areas and stuff.
Like, hey, talk to this guy. Hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. I give you like a basis. But I don't really know what I'm talking about. And then here I'm just like, I just like talking.
I mean, that's the power of networking. Like, so I just went to this event out at BuzzFeed in New York. And it was dope because I met one of the ideas that we have for one of the books that I want to do is basically putting on glasses to help kids that are kind of afraid to wear glasses, or they're kind of weirded out about it. So like basically a book where like they'll put on the glasses and they'll be able to see different things on the page.
Kind of like virtual reality type stuff?
Not really virtual reality, like literally like the 3D glasses that you get at the movie theater. You know what I mean?
So or like they have like the blended images, so then it kind of pops out a little bit too?
So that it pops up, or we're still trying to figure it out. We're still like in the R&D phase of it. Or like basically it is, you know, like the images that it's everything is all blurry, kind of like snowy. But then when you put on the glasses, you can actually see the words, or it's clear, something like that. And I met somebody in New York that's actually working on that working with that kind of technology. Like it's part of her repertoire. And so I was just like, oh, you know, being able to network with people, exactly what you're saying, like what you're doing with this podcast, is so clutch, because you know when you meet people who have different ideas, they might be able to expand on the thoughts that you already had.
And to piggyback on that, I was at the Baltimore Comic-Con last year, I think around October time. There's one creator, he spent 5 years writing this like graphic novel, and I don't know, I forgot what it was. He basically created a program. So you download a program on your phone, and you literally just put your phone on top of the book, and you see the whole story play out on your.
Oh,
on your
like digitally,
Yeah.
like animated. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's dope.
And
that's nice.
It's not like a full like movie clip.
Yeah.
So every time you turn the page, you see an action.
Yeah,
It's very like sci-fi. So it's like I think it was about like being a mission to go into space, but then like the world blew up, like the Earth blew up. So then now they're just alone in a different world, and all they have is with their stuff.
I think Marvel did that at one point. They did like an AR thing. It's like Marvel AR, like basically you would download an app, and then you'd put it up against the screen, and then you'd be able to like, I can't remember if it was like images that you would see or something, but it was something similar to what you're talking about.
I was so shocked, and I was talking to the owners or the creators, and they were just breaking it down. Like, yeah, we spent years on this. Like, we're the first like graphic novel they were saying like in that area, in Baltimore, and I was like, you guys got something.
So they're in Baltimore, that company, or did they come in from Baltimore?
They came to Baltimore for the Comic-Con.
Baltimore. Okay.
I forgot. I didn't ask them where they were based off of.
Okay.
Because they had more people coming in, and then I didn't want to bother them.
Right.
I just had like my little taste of it. I think I have it at home somewhere. I have like their card.
Yeah.
I'll shoot them your way.
Yeah, I'd love to check that out. It might, definitely. See, that's exactly what you're talking about. Look at that, we're networking right here, right now, on this, on the catch up.
This is awesome. Okay. Can you break down like your writing process to me? Like,
oh yeah, sure.
I think that's an interesting field right now because I'm kind of doing the same thing.
Okay, so not to be too boring.
Okay.
But not so whenever I love talking about the writing and the creative process. So whenever I like to let things come to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like for example, when I thought of the book The Candy Conundrum, it really was building off of the story that I already had.
Right.
So I was looking at Chunky and Friends and I said, okay, what can I do that's going to excite kids, that's going to be interesting to girls, but would still be fun to boys, because the main character in The Candy Conundrum is that. And I always put aside sales, I put aside everything else, I put aside the impact, and I focus on a story.
Okay.
Just a really fun story. That's ultimately what it boils down to. And then from there, I let whatever ideas come to me, and I just jot them down. Like if I think it's funny, I write it down. Anything that comes, write it down.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's all about starting. And with the Chunky and Friends book series, what I always want to do is to start off with them as an adult, telling their personal story.
Oh,
so with Chunky, I started off with him as an adult saying, "Hi, my name is Chunky. My name is Charles. When I was a kid, everyone called me Chunky." Yeah. And then he explains how he took the steps to become healthier.
Okay.
So from there, with The Candy Conundrum, I said, okay, I'm going to start this book off the same exact way that I started Chunky's story off, with her as an adult telling her personal story, saying how much she loved candy. Because ultimately, with my book series and with the characters that I'm creating, I want it so that when a kid is looking at it, they'll be able to see themselves and to say, oh, everything turned out okay for them.
Right.
That means everything will be okay for me too.
Okay.
And
that
so,
makes sense.
and so my creative process is all about the characters and all about the story. What kind of book are you writing?
Well, I'm not really writing a book. I've just been writing more
just more
introspective.
Things.
Like I'm writing on Medium.com.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you know what? I read one of your pieces earlier. I read one of your pieces earlier. I saw it on the link, and I was like, "Oh, okay, this is dope."
What did you think about it?
It was good. It was good. It was the one basically about bringing people together, like how you're doing your podcast and stuff. But anyway, check that out. Check it out. It's in his bio. But yeah, for me, like the creative process is basically sitting down and not putting any pressure on myself. Like I used to do when I used to write rhymes, it was the same way. It was just like, sometimes I would even talk it out out loud. And then whatever comes to mind, if I think it's cool, it gets put down on paper. And if I don't think that I don't like saying writer's block.
Okay.
Because I feel like writer's block is like, where the writer is like sitting with a bottle of tequila and facing it. You know what I mean? Like anything, come to me.
Johnny Depp.
Yeah, you know what I mean? In the middle of a cabin, like I can't do it. I can't. Like
it's been years. I haven't written a single word.
It's not that serious. To me, it's not that serious because I feel like any nugget of writing that you start with can grow into something better.
Right.
And a lot of times, like you'll look back at what you wrote and you'll be like, oh God, that was garbage. Like let's pretend like that didn't happen. But other time, like there's several Chunky and Friends stories where I'm just like, yeah, let's not even acknowledge those.
Yeah.
But there are some of them where I'm like, okay, this might be a good point to start, and I could actually ease out from there. So
okay, I see.
So that's my process. My process is basically relaxing, letting any and every thought come to me, jotting them down, and then building around that.
Okay.
And a lot of times it has to do with the story. Like I was saying with the candy conundrum, I was like, what's her problem? Her problem is that she loves candy.
Yeah.
How is she going to solve it? Well, she's not going to do the logical thing. She's not going to go to her mom and say, Mom, I have a toothache. I eat too much candy.
Yeah.
You know, the issue with her is that she loves her candy so much that she does not want her mom to find out that she has a toothache. And so she needs to figure out how she's going to fix the toothache.
Okay.
And so what does she do? She goes to her brother.
Yeah.
Her brother tries to help. It doesn't work. She goes to her friend. Her friend tries to help. It doesn't work. And it just evolves from there, ultimately leading to her sitting in a dental chair saying, I give up. Let's fix my tooth. Fix it the right way. So really, it's all about knowing who the character is, what the character is about, and then building on that idea.
So you're really big on like character development. In that part.
Huge.
Are you big into like philosophy in terms of those?
I love philosophy. I love philosophy.
What do you like, or what do you follow?
When I was young, I used to read a lot of Nietzsche. Right now, I'm reading about Stoicism.
Okay.
I'm like slowly but surely falling in love with the idea, and I'm reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
There you go.
And I'm sitting there. It's one of those books where I feel like it's so dense that I need to read it slowly.
Digest.
Yeah. So Marcus Aurelius, I'm like, you know, he's so his life struggles, like losing his children, 2 wars in his lifetime, and he has to run an empire.
Yeah.
It's like, to me, I'm like, who else is going to be able to, you know, who can talk about this? Who else can talk about this kind of thing? And it's like, you know, I draw parallels of like the way his attitude was with life to like Barack Obama. Like I look at them the same exact way, because in the face of like all kinds of adversity and all kinds of issues, he would still keep a positive, poised position. And it's like, you don't see him freaking out like, oh my God, it's all over. You know what I mean? It's just
behind the scenes, he's
pulling his hair, but he knew how to present himself. So I don't know if he paid attention to stoicism or not, but I would imagine that maybe he did, or it's just innate in him growing up.
Yeah.
But yeah, like so I read Nietzsche when I was a kid, young, and also obviously the Bible too. And right now I'm all diving into stoicism. I just think it's an interesting philosophy and an interesting mindset.
So Ryan Holiday, that was the book that I've been reading about.
Okay.
He's a big follower of the Stoicism.
Oh, really?
Him and Tim Ferriss. That's how I got into Stoicism.
Oh, Tim Ferriss is too?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Tim Ferriss, definitely.
Oh, wow.
My biggest correlation or connection with them is they have a big fascination about death. They find that I think Ryan Holiday made a coin for Daily Stoicism, and I was going to recommend that book. He said the Daily Stoic.
Okay.
Ryan Holiday made an entire year, 365 notes of Stoicism.
Okay.
According to his day and how it relates to like little anecdotes of Marcus Aurelius and Seneca.
Oh, okay.
I'm
gonna check that out. I'm gonna check that out because, like I said, I just started diving into it like earlier this year. It was just like something where I was just like, okay, I want to. I don't remember how I fell into Marcus Aurelius, but when I somehow, some way I found out about it, and immediately I ordered meditations. Yeah, and I was just like, okay, let me go ahead, and I've been reading it slowly, like really taking my time and going over the pages over and over and over because it's really dense, and it's written. It's written in like a real...
It's nothing's like actual transcribed. It's translated.
It's translated. So it's like, you really have to go over each word like carefully and see what he's talking about. But yeah, it's something really interesting. That's where I am with like in terms of philosophy and stuff. Okay. As of right now.
I'm going to be real interested for your next following book stuff.
Yeah. I know, right? I'll be talking about...
A little dark.
Right? I know, right?
Like my tooth.
Like, and then
it decayed. Oh, wow.
And the sky wept. And the children were all crying in pools of their own tears. Yeah, it might end up like that. No, I don't think it's going to be like that. I mean, Because like really, you
gotta go off your own vibe.
Yeah. Well,
always try to recreate yourself.
So when I said about the writing process where you look at it and you're like, this is garbage.
Yeah.
That would probably go in that pile. Or it's just like, yeah, let's just put this over here. But yeah, like one of the things that I've been doing, like in terms of, I want to say rediscovering my love of writing, because when after we stopped making music, I kind of put it to the side. It's just writing other stuff too, stuff outside of Chunky and Friends, because I spend a lot of my time doing book readings for kids and putting it out there. So I've written stories, more adult driven stories, and it's something that
I was going to talk about that. Like, do you feel like you're going to go the outer viewpoint or the opposite extreme? Like, instead of talking about kids, talking about adult and their struggles.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think that's something that I'm pushing towards. I'm really like I'm fascinated with relationships.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Same. Especially like 21st century relationships.
Okay.
Like I'm married with 2 kids. So happily married, and we have some friends that are single, and I'm just like, how are you navigating through these waters right now? Like,
what do you mean?
Well, I mean, with the Tinder and Facebook, like, I mean, back in my day, but no, I mean, when I was single, it was just like most people would be a blank slate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you would have to get to know somebody by talking to them.
Right.
You couldn't really get to know somebody by hopping onto their profile and looking at a history of their thoughts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, I feel like it leaves you open to be vulnerable to somebody who is looking to impress you and not really being their genuine self. They want to be the person that you want them to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's just like, how are you navigating these waters, leaving a digital footprint? And you're a young single dude too, right? So
I'm 25.
25. So it's like,
so my viewpoint right now is, and the reason why I want to write is that I think I know my true self. So it's almost like I know what I want, and you couldn't phase me. If you act the way that I would want, like, my partner to act, then you better be that entire time. I can tell, like, I think nowadays, because we have all this information, you can tell when someone's authentic. So
you can spot the fakers, the ones that's like trying to impress you because they know that that's what you're interested in.
Because like I'm really in depth with the things that I like. Like like we talk about stoicism, talk about development, talk about fitness, health. If you can do all those at once, I mean, I might as well.
Right.
You're a good girl.
Right.
But then if I go in depth, like if I talk to someone like, hey, do you like stoicism, and who do you follow or who do you like? And then if they like don't mention like a Marcus Aurelius or meditations or something of that knowledge, it's like, sure. Just grab a drink.
Sure. Right.
Keep drinking.
Right. But this is like so to me, like I've been writing stories just like I wrote a story about, it's called Love Dealer. Okay. And it's basically about this guy who owns a Hallmark gift shop. He's a co-owner of a Hallmark gift shop, and he is completely disillusioned when it comes to relationships.
Is this a true story?
No, it's not a true story. This is me stretching my imagination. Yeah.
Okay.
And so he's completely disillusioned with love, and the reason why is because he looks at love as being a drug that needs to be handled.
I see.
And every relationship that you have with somebody is something that needs to be handled. Like it's like a high.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Kind of like, how like when you fall in love with somebody, you get that hit of dopamine, and everything is all blissful.
Right.
It's not until you get used to that high that you come down from it, and at some point in time it just becomes an addiction where you're just like, I just need the fix. I'm not getting that same feeling anymore. I just need the fix.
I always think it's a 3-year thing. I think I've learned, I've had a couple like 3-year relationships, and usually at that 3-year mark, that's when you're kind of like, I've seen you.
I see it.
I've lived with a girlfriend for 3.5 years, and like we kind of like lived with each other after a year.
Yeah.
And everything was good. There was golden vacation, anniversary, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And at that 3rd-year mark, it was like, all right, we'll just come home. Like, hey, babe. All right, bye, babe.
Yeah, you're just in the routine kind of thing. So for me, it's just like, when I was writing this story, I was like, keeping in mind with what you say, like, at a certain point in time, some people tend to be in relationships just because it becomes part of the routine.
It's like a sense of belonging.
It's a sense of belonging, and you're putting yourself you don't want to be alone.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you're scared to go back out there and being alone.
Yeah.
So like with the character that I created, he's refusing to get into a relationship because he looks at every individual person as like a drug.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, if he gets with a girl who's like really high strung and really out there and really like energetic, loves mountain climbing, loves doing this, to him that's cocaine. That's not for him. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So it's like if he's meeting somebody who's real laid back, real chill, that's weed. Not for him. So he labels each individual girl as like its own drug. And so the way the story goes is that he has this best friend who's a female, and she decides that she's going to find him somebody.
Yeah.
And she becomes his love dealer. And so it's all about him going on these different dates and labeling these girls and basically being like, oh my goodness, like this isn't going to work because she is this. This isn't going to work because this is this. And then ultimately the story evolves into how we deal with rejection.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How are we going to deal with rejection, and how we need to stop putting labels on people and to accept people for who they are in this digital age where you can get all the information that you want. Just getting past the veneer and just getting to know somebody directly.
We're going to have a lot of conversations about that. Well, let's do this off
We're going to do part 1 and part 2? Is that what's going to happen?
Honestly, that's what I want to do. Like with any guests I have, if you have like any new book release, just come back.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
that's the
man.
goal.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, speaking of that, with networking, like how do you find your networking events? Like when you said you meet other entrepreneurs.
I love it. I love networking events. So the only thing is that I have this thing where I feel like I wish I could do more for people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's like I was talking to my wife about this morning, where I was just like, not that I take personally other people's plights.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm very empathetic that way, where it's just like, I want to be able to help you. Like I love what you're doing. I love what
you want to be Superman.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, fortunately, I'm not the person that I'm very practical. I know I'm not going to bite more than I can chew.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I'm very focused on my mission with Chunky and friends. And so it's all about pushing forward and, you know, making sure that happens. But I wish that there were ways that I could collaborate with people. So what I do a lot of times is that I always keep them in the back of my mind. Mm-hmm. You know, whenever I network with people, like, I mean, even when I met you, I always kept, you know, kept what you do in the back of my mind. I always look at your Instagram page just to catch up and see what's going on. You know what I mean? So I saw that you were doing the podcast and I was like, that's dope. That's actually a really good platform, you know? And so for me, it's all about keeping people in the back of my mind, just in case if I meet somebody who's like, hey, I'm looking for XYZ, then I can be like, you need to talk to Bryan. Like he's the guy that you need to talk to.
Okay.
Yep.
I can see us working together on some things.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is funny because like I just met you once last year, and still like I did the same thing with you. Like I kept following you. I saw you in New York. You were kind of expanding. You were scaling.
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
yeah,
we have something to talk about.
Yeah,
I'm trying to scale the same thing.
Well, it's funny because like so to go back to the entrepreneurship thing, and so. I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. Okay. You know, and I'm not a religious person, but I do have I believe in God and I do have a strong faith. Mm-hmm. And so like I remember, you know, being an entrepreneur, there are a lot of times where you're just alone. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where you're just doing things alone. And I was leaving a dental office and, you know, it was another thing where, you know, I don't like to say I was rejected. Mm-hmm. I believe whenever you're doing sales, it's basically two people having two different opinions about something. Right. And if you're unable to convince them of your opinion, then you just move on, right. You know? So I went to a dental office and basically we didn't see eye to eye in terms of them distributing the book and things like that. And so I was walking through the alley and it was one of those days where it was just like, felt like I was just getting beaten down. And I was just like, oh God, like I'm really trying to do good here. Please, you know, just give me a sign, anything to show me that I'm on the right path. Right. And as I was walking through this alley, I said that, and then I just kind of let it go, and I moved on. You know, kept on pushing forward. Went to another place, just kept going. Yeah. And then as I was driving home, recounting everything that happened, I got a text message. Not a text message. I got a phone call, and it was from the BuzzFeed people, and it was just like, hey, we're doing this event. Would you like to come? And it didn't hit me until like... So they just called you like off random? I didn't apply for anything? Or no, I didn't apply for anything. It was a connection that I had and they were just like, we're doing this event. Yeah. Do you want to come participate? That's awesome. And I was just like, and it didn't hit me until like I was telling my wife about it, about the phone call, that I was just like, I asked for this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just like I asked for a sign to say like, you know, like you're on the right path, you're doing the right thing, and there it was.
Yeah.
And so, you know, me being the person I am, I went up there with the full intention of using that opportunity to meet as many people as possible, to engage with as many people as possible, and to hopefully make an impact. You know what I mean? To help out as anyone that I can, connect with as many people so that, you know, we can build a bigger network. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was one of those things where being an entrepreneur was, you don't see the fruits of your labor until you're asking. You know what I mean? Until you say to yourself, why am I doing this? You know, and then
like
once
finding your purpose.
Like once you find your purpose, because you know, I feel like there's a lot of people that do things for the wrong reasons. Yeah. You know what I mean? They do things for... It's
kind of what you're talking about, the dating thing. Like, you try to act like you're their interest, but if you do it for the wrong reasons, you're like, you're not yourself.
Exactly. So it's like, I know that when I was walking through that alley and I put that out there, if I had curled up into a ball, like, I probably would not have gotten that call. You know what I mean? Like, in some miraculous or philosophical, you know, way, it's just like I put it into the ether and I kept pushing forward. I kept working towards that goal. And me working towards that goal was just like, okay, here's something. Let me throw you a little something so that you can, you know, so that you can keep going. Exactly. But you know, being an entrepreneur is tough. You know, it's tough. It can be lonely. And I lean on fellow entrepreneurs. You know, I lean on them heavily. I visit fellow entrepreneurs' Instagram pages so I can see what they're doing and use that as motivation and give them props. Be like, yeah, I see you. I see what you're doing. Keep on pushing. And you know, I get those messages as well from fellow entrepreneurs. And I think that having that kind of community is going to flourish, and it's only going to help sustain the network, and so that I can be on more podcasts like yours, you know what I mean? And get the word out there. And hopefully, you know, if I decide to create a podcast platform, you can come on mine, and then, you know, we can expand our networks like that.
That's what's up. Yeah. So I want to give you my point of view of that. Because I think I kind of embraced my darkness and the aloneness in a different way. So I think I kind of found this through Stoicism as well. Okay. I've gotten to I just wrote another article.
Be gentle with me, because I'm just starting with Stoicism. Don't hit me on the head with something too heavy, because I'm gonna be like, what? Is that what it says? And I'm just gonna try to breeze through the books. Like, I want to get to that part. Then that's when the dark writing is gonna come. In the midst of my life, I saw the darkness in the depths of my soul.
Are you a fan of Batman?
Oh yeah, huge fan of Batman.
So like that Batman story, I can really relate to. In terms of like how he thinks. But what
he's a stoic too. Like I think that's probably, I could imagine. I mean, like I said, I'm just starting with the stoicism things, but I can imagine like,
I can imagine it too.
His dogged intensity, and you know, I guess like, cause like
he always prepares for the worst, even though like something like very inevitable. Cause he made like what's that? He made a plan on how to defeat Justice League.
All the Justice League, right? Like beat everybody.
Goes rogue.
Right.
So that's the same issue.
So yeah, go ahead. What were you saying? So you said you embrace the darkness.
I embrace the darkness in terms of I embrace the darkness and I embrace simplicity. I wrote this in an article as well. It's to be to deconstruct the people in your life to push forward. So I want to say, as of recently, I've gone on a lot more purges in terms of like social media, in terms of the people that I follow. Because like, I follow like hot girls, just to look at, just for like eye candy every now and then. But then sometimes I know like, this is too many. Like if I'm scrolling and I see like 2 in a row, unfollow. Because I know I'll follow them again when I want to. Right. But at the same time, it's like, okay, once I have that clear, and then I have all my entrepreneurs like what you do. Okay, I see what they're doing. But then at the same time, sometimes like, okay, I see them doing well. Shut off. Like I just put my phone on airplane mode, and then I just post what I need to post and get off. So I kind of just focus on me and then my progression. Right. So the same thing for me and my fitness in terms of how I train my clients as well. It's like progressive overload. So every week, if I look back in my week, I always plan on my week like every Monday or Sunday. If I look back in my week and like by So sometimes it's even Wednesday. Between Wednesday and Thursday, if I'm not already like stressed in a good way, that like I'm so tired, I wish I could just lay in bed all day. I feel like that's my spot. Like I know I'm not to the point where, like I know you said, if you roll up to the ball and just cry.
Right.
If I'm just in bed, like if I put my phone on airplane mode, I don't want to talk to anybody. Where you could have got that BuzzFeed call, you could have missed out.
Right.
So for me, it's like, okay, I know it. I know what I have to do. And I spend like maybe I think as of right now, I've only spent like one night with like my friends. And I think as of now, I'm living with my dad. My dad and my stepmom right now, they're always pushing me like, when are you going to get a girlfriend? When are you going to get kids? I want grandkids. I'm like, I need to cut you guys out. I'm like, all right.
Like, where's the airplane mode for this?
like I just need, so I'm always out and about. I'm trying to focus on me. And like I always said, I always like find the purpose and find your own goal. And I think life, like I don't want to be a life coach, like or that name, but I feel like that's what I'm really good at, and like programming,
like helping people, like giving people structure so that they can progress.
Yes,
is that what you're saying? I see what you're saying.
My biggest rule of thumb when I mentor a couple people in my I'm in the military, the Marines, so I have one mentee right now. My biggest key phrase to him is, learn. If you don't like the game, learn the rules so you can change the game. And rules are not meant to be a once all be all type of thing. You can always play the rules to your advantage. Right. Thing.
Like Shaq did.
In what way?
Well, you know, they just the way that he played, they ended up they ended up implementing Hack a Shaq. You know what I mean? Because he kept
free throw.
Exactly. They could. So it's like, you know, I didn't mean like Shaq did, like they did with Shaq. You know what I mean? Like they saw that he was essentially unstoppable, so they were just like, we just need to foul him. Like that's it. He's not good at free throws. It's like it's against the rules to foul people. Right. But I'm going to use it to my advantage so that I can, you know, ultimately. Exactly. So I mean, I see what you're saying. Like, you know, if you don't like the game, try to find your footing in it so that you can excel and so that you can find the benefit and make it work for you. Yeah. I feel like that's to me, that's like standard entrepreneurship. You know what I mean? Like
to me, like I find it so like eye-opening when I find people who don't think this way.
We are a different breed. Like at the end of the day, we are a different breed. Like I've talked to people that look at me and they're just like, I don't understand how you do this. And I'm like, I don't understand how you do what you do. Like, you know what I mean? This is like it's not even about the freedom. It's not even about that. I feel like it's just about being able to be creative. Right. You know what I mean? I in so many ways, I'm sure like, you know, people that aren't entrepreneurs, they find complete gratification in what they do. You know what I mean? Like everybody has their own place. Everybody has their own role. But, you know, and we look at each other like we're weird, you know, at the end of the day. But it's like for me, you know, if I'm confronted with a problem, I relish in being able to solve it. You know what I mean? Like I get excited. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like how are we gonna, I remember when I first created the Chunky and Friends series, I had no idea about publishing. I didn't know how to publish a book. I didn't know the very first thing to do. I didn't know how I was going to sell a book. I just knew that I created a book and some people like it, a couple people like it. Maybe I could sell it. You know what I mean? And so when I created the book, I found it was all about doing the research. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's not something that a lot of people are willing to do. I meet a lot of people that are like, yeah, I wrote a book, man. I'm trying to see if I could get somebody to pick it up.
But people like that instant gratification. They just think it's like, boom, it's going to happen.
Exactly. And so, you know, I did the research and I discovered print on demand, which is basically if somebody orders the book, they'll ship it for you. You know what I mean?
Like drop shipping.
Not really drop. It's not drop shipping. It's called print on demand. You know,
a website.
There are several websites that do it. One of the biggest ones, the one that I used is Lulu, LULU.com, and they were really good. And the thing about it is that when you do print on demand, the price is really high.
Oh, okay.
So when I started, I was selling a paperback book for $20 just so that I could make a profit off the book.
How much did it cost you?
For them to print it?
Yeah.
It was about $15 to print the book.
Okay, so $5 profit.
So it's a $5 profit. Now, the issue was that that's really high for a children's book.
Yeah.
Especially a paperback book. Like you can get some hardcover books for less than that. Yeah, exactly. But the very first book festival I did, I had 20 copies of my book and sold them all out that one day.
Nice.
At $20 a piece.
Okay.
So that's really when I was like, okay, we have something solid here.
Yeah, the ball's rolling.
This is where the problem solving comes into play, where it's like one of those things that I relish in. I had to figure out a way to drop the price. And so
you're selling the price or the price
selling price
making
both
manufacturing
both, because I mean ultimately all the money all the book sale money was going back to manufacturing. You know what I mean? Like I would buy the book at about $15 each, and then basically anything that I made over that was profit.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, you know what, I have to figure out a way to make more money with this book series.
Right.
And so I had to figure it out. Had no idea how to start, had no idea where to go.
Yeah.
No mentors, no anything. It was just, I just need to figure it out.
Sure, yeah.
And God bless the internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
God bless the internet, because, you know, I found out how to do it. I figured out how to wait. And now I'm able to drop the price where it's affordable so that when I go to low income communities, you know, I can find somebody who's going to purchase the book, or I can go to a school and be like, hey, purchase 10 copies so I can give it away. You know what I mean? So now my book prices are, you know, between $10 and $15, which is, you know, good because it allows room for profit and also allows me to keep the price low enough so that anybody can get it.
What did you do, can you say?
So I went offshore. Offshore means I went to China to get the book printed.
You actually went to China?
No, I didn't go to China.
Okay, I was like, wow.
I reached out.
It's hard to find.
It is hard to find. Okay. It is hard to find, and it's a lot of negotiating as well. You know, it's a lot of negotiating as far as how do you like basically being able to get a low enough price to use it. And obviously there's a language barrier. Thank goodness for language apps, and a lot of people there speak English too. Surprisingly, like, you know, because they do business with a lot of people in the US. Right. And so once I did that, once I figured out how to contact them and negotiate and figure out, it was just a matter of getting the shipments in and selling the books. So nice. Yeah, now we're, you know, close to 2,500 books sold, and it's kind of ridiculous for like the self-publishing industry, because usually the lifetime of a book is about 370. You know, 370 books sold. Like if somebody were to release a book today, by the time they die, they'll probably only sell 370 books. That's it? Yeah. Selling books is not easy. Yeah. Selling books is not easy. It's not an easy thing because really, so a lot of bookstores are very apprehensive to take independently published books. Another thing is that a lot of libraries don't carry them too. If you're fortunate enough to find a small bookstore, mom and pop bookstore to carry it, there's no guarantee that they're going to sell 2, 3, or even 4 or 5 books. They're not that well known either. Exactly. You know what I mean? And not to mention they have a whole bunch of other books that they're trying to sell. You know what I mean? And it's like you're just basically 1 in a million in their catalog. You're like playing the lotto. Yeah, exactly. And you'd be fortunate if they were to push your book and say you really should read this book. It's a local. Like, put it on the table by itself. Yeah, you'd be really hard pressed to find that. And so really, you know, for independently published authors like myself, it's all about getting out there. And one of the ways that I figured it out is that I met this guy named Jim Coleman. I was doing an event at Bowie State, and it was all about communities and farmers markets and people, the community farmers markets and serving food deserts. And I wasn't even selling my book. I went to the event for free because, you know, I wanted to network and meet more people and get the word about the book out there. And this guy, Jim Coleman, he looked at my book. He was like, "This is great. You should come to my farmer's market." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Yeah, my farmer's market. People there would probably love it." Is this Jim Coleman related to the dealership guy? No, it's not. It's a different guy. Okay, I was like, that's really that would be really cool. I know, right? He's like, yeah, I got farmers markets too. No, he runs several this Jim Coleman, he runs several farmers markets. One in Hyattsville, Riverdale. He runs a Riverdale farmers market. I know that area. Yeah, and also one in DC, Fort 14th and Kennedy. Yeah, 14th and Kennedy.
Okay.
So when he came to me, he was like, "You should come to my farmer's market and sell your books." I was like, "Okay, how much does it cost?" He was like, "Come for free. Just come, set up. If it works out for you, then so be it."
Yeah.
And I sold out of books that day. Like I went with about 10 books, and this is like post me going to offshore, and I have thousands of books in my home. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, how am I going to sell these books?
So you just brought 10, like just in case.
I was just like, I'm gonna bring 10. Hopefully, I'll sell these. And I didn't know what to expect from farmers markets. I've been to farmers markets before, but usually it's people are there to buy groceries and they leave.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So to buy produce, and they leave. So I was just like, are they going to be receptive? And I sold out of books that day, and I was like, okay, I found a market.
That's awesome.
Obviously my book is about healthy eating and active play.
Yeah.
And
it goes hand in hand.
It goes hand in hand. So basically after that, every weekend I found a different farmer's market to be at and just found my market. And
I love that hustle. From spot to spot.
And I mean, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Like whenever I meet people who are like, I don't understand how you do this. We are a different breed because we open ourselves up to opportunity.
Yeah.
One, you know what I mean? One, we open ourselves up to opportunity. And two, if there is an obstacle, we're like antennas looking for a way to solve the problem. You know what I mean? Like for example, you started this podcast because you were like, I know all these people.
Yeah.
There has to be something I can do.
Right.
We don't know what benefits you're going to get from it.
Yeah.
But ultimately something is going to happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you're going to get something from doing this for other people. You know what I mean? And it's just like, he saw me there, and he had no reason to basically open his doors up to me. He's the manager of a farmer's market. He just said, this will work.
Yeah.
And I think that you should do it. And I'm eternally grateful for him because I don't think I would have been able to sell as many books if I didn't have my eyes open to the possibility of being able to sell my book at farmers markets.
Right.
And in addition to that, it's like schools and schools, community centers, and other places that I do. But the primary area where I sell my books are farmers markets.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I would assume more into your events, like in terms of like schools and stuff. Or it's like dentists.
Well, yes, the dentist one has been that actually is the reason why the book sales have like doubled.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
It really exploded.
That's the reason why it really exploded. But the schools, usually when I do the schools, like they hand out a flyer at the end of the day, like, okay, take this home and purchase it. So I'll get some book sales from that.
Yeah.
But school readings are, they're unpredictable. You know what I mean? Like when I go to a farmer's market, I could walk in and be like, yeah, I'm probably going to sell about 15 books.
Okay.
I'm probably going to sell about 20 books here.
Gotcha.
And then from there, it's just a matter of, engaging with people,
Yeah.
when they walk by saying hello and,
Right.
confronting them directly and saying, hey, come check out my book. And then if they purchase it, they do. If they don't, then at least they'll have that nugget of memory in their mind. Like, oh, I met that guy before.
Yeah. So. And then I think if I recall correctly, it was you and one other person in that farmer's market in Kentlands were the only one that said hello to me. Everyone else, I had to kind of pry into them. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
It was you and I want to say these two. I'm not going to just put out a name.
Okay.
Or just,
if you describe them, I probably
the Jollof ladies.
Oh yes, yeah.
They were like, hey, come here.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, feed me with a compliment, and then they're like, you gotta try this.
Right. And if rice is real good.
Yeah.
Rice is real good.
You got me.
Let me ask you a question. So, like, we talked about it a little bit early on. So, like, you're really into, I know like you're into fitness and stuff.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always come across are like families and parents or even schools where, they'll say, oh, our population is thin, therefore they don't need your book or they don't need to hear the reading.
Okay.
My thing is that, like, it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside. It's all about what's happening inside the body.
I agree.
The outside could be an indication of like, yes, there's probably some underlying health issues there's probably some health issues that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, whether you're big or small, it's all about what's happening inside. What are your thoughts on that?
That's pretty big for general for me. So like, are you thinking about like how to solve the solution, or what I think about people who say that?
I think like solving that mindset. Because for example, I don't remember his name. There's that fitness guy who recently had a heart attack.
Is it?
I think he was the biggest. I think he's the biggest loser. One of the judges on there. Now he's like doing a commercial for like Lipitor or something, like one of those heart medications.
I know who you're talking about. I don't know the name. I understand what you're talking about,
but it's like, you know, you hear stories. I mean, I myself, I hear stories about people where it's like, oh my goodness, he had a heart attack. I can't believe it. He always seems so fit.
Yeah.
Like he always seems so healthy, and it's just like you're forgetting about the previous year, like. The fact that some people's metabolism are faster than others,
right.
you know, without
it's gut health too.
Yes,
that's what I'm trying to get into.
Is that what you're like focused on right now, like gut health?
Me
like,
personally?
Yeah, no, I mean just like in general, like with your business.
No, I'm more mental. I'm more mindset, and the way you think is just skewed because I'm trying to really break down society and the world.
That's a tall order, man.
I know. That's the same thing like what you said. I'm trying to help the world.
Yeah.
But I feel like I can't. I feel like I can do more, but then I physically can't.
Yeah.
Like I need some sleep. I need some time to decompress.
Right.
But what I've learned is just that media is a gift and a curse. Just like how we think of like fatalism and how we view our entrepreneurship.
Right.
I've learned a lot about growth through negative press. Just like the Trump candidacy or
presidency,
that thing. Like everyone thought, there's no way, no fucking way.
Right.
And then he's the president.
Right.
That kind of thing. And basically what happened was I read another book I really would recommend to you is Trust Me, I'm Lying from Ryan Holiday. I would tell you, come with me.
You know what? I've seen that book before. I've seen that book before. I didn't know the author's name, but I've seen that book before.
The first 2 chapters in there, I was completely mind blown.
Yeah.
I never thought about it. Because it was just like the tactics that media uses in order to build. So the reason why Trump won the presidency was because he promoted himself. He promoted himself years before becoming just running.
Yeah.
Because he was like, I could be president. And then everyone found out, or I don't think he'll ever admit, but there's like, oh shit, I really did win.
Yeah.
I did win. And then like now he's just doing his thing. But I think the thing with Twitter, if you have the attention, and the same thing what Gary Vee always says, attention wins all. Like, the closer you are to your consumers. Right.
The more they see you, the more they recognize you. If they can spot you in a crowd. Yeah. Yeah.
And my personal viewpoint in terms of, I follow the Spider-Man theory. With great power comes great responsibility. And the same thing with attention. With a lot of great attention, no matter who you are, how you feel, what do you think, you're some type of role model. Yeah. Because the eyes are on you.
Somebody's going to be able to relate.
Yeah.
And check it out. So in terms of what you're saying, like the curse of the media and like people's health as a whole. I mean the gift and the curse, like in the health industry, I guess I'm trying to say. Like how do you think like what do you think is the gift and what do you think is the curse as it relates to people's health?
The gift is that we are very influential, or highly able to be influenced. I'm learning a lot more through Eastern philosophy type of thing. I work with a lot of martial artists as well. I find them to be my best friends because they have an understanding of the world versus... Do you know what the Kim Kardashians did last week?
Right.
I really don't care.
It's a unique perspective. Yeah. It's a different perspective that's not superficial.
Right.
Yeah.
Because like everyone is always like we were talking about this entire podcast. Like everyone's looking on the superficial side, like what's on the outside. Like, oh, he looks good. Right. He gets girls, or she looks beautiful.
Right.
But then on the inside, there's implants, there's liposuction, there's Botox.
Right.
That kind of stuff. And like to me it's just, are they really happy inside?
Yeah.
Again, this is the type of stuff that I write about. I wrote an article about happiness versus pleasure. My perspective on that was pleasure is an addictive thing. It's kind of like what you were talking about with that. It was dating we talking about.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They talk about the guy who found that girl, like she's good, but she's only good for me for that perspective.
Right, for that one thing. Yeah.
Right. And then I can go
for that
balance.
fix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I find pleasure, I relate pleasure to sex. When you have sex, you want more sex.
Right.
And then when you think of when I think of happiness, I think of family. Like, you may not always like your family, but you're happy they're there. You'll always be happy that they're there.
Right.
Like, you'll never want more, you never want less.
Right.
You just want more time with them.
Right.
And I think, like, that time feeling is more like the invaluables. Like, I always wish, like we said, I wish we had more time. I wish I could do more.
Yeah.
That's to me happiness. The point of, like, fulfillment.
Right.
Where your actual, like, I'm glad to be alive type of moment.
And the pleasure is always fleeting. Like, you know, pleasure is in the moment. Like, I feel like when it comes to happiness, you'll find moments of pleasure when you're truly happy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, for example, with my kids, like, if I see my son and daughter playing, that's a moment of pleasure.
Right.
You know what I mean? But overall, everything that they're doing is happiness.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, all of that, it's like I'm blanketed in happiness in that moment, but like that specific moment is pleasure.
They're synonymous, but they're not the same.
Yeah.
And then to answer your question, with the Eastern philosophy that I'm looking into, is like, everyone is able to learn. It's only if they can drop their ego and be willing to learn. So it's the theory that everyone can't. You can only be taught if you want to be taught.
Right.
So I just want to put out as much information. It's kind of like the Gary Vee type of thing. I want to put out as much information that I can of my viewpoint to see if anyone relates.
Yeah.
And then the more people that relate, more people talk about it, and then so on to expand to the world. Like,
Right.
It's almost thinking like making a cult following. But in a good perspective.
In a good way. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Cult, not in a negative connotation, even though it is, you know, overall.
Overall, I think it's just an infatuation of a person. That's the actual definition of it. Like, if you actually like someone.
So, like, on the topic of ego, this is something that, you know, I always try to think about, because, and you know, specifically as it relates to, you know, the stuff that I've been reading about Stoicism. Like I said, I'm not that deep into it yet.
Sorry.
But just like in terms of setting aside the ego, not identifying yourself with what you do, but who you are.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's like, to me, as it pertains to health, and like whenever I try to reach the kids, I always tell them that they are perfect exactly the way that they are.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, who they are on the inside, who they are at their core. They're perfect exactly how they are on the inside. And to focus on growing up healthy and strong. Yeah. Like anytime I put up a tweet or, you know, or an Instagram post, I always use the hashtag think healthy. Because I believe that that's instead of paying attention to the number on the scale, if you think healthy, everything else is going to fall into place. You know, you're going to feel better. You're going to if losing weight is your goal and you think healthy, the weight might fall off. And if it doesn't, because, you know, you have a metabolism that doesn't allow it, or, you know, that's just your body habitus, you're going to feel better overall. Right. You know what I mean? Like, your attitude is going to feel better. You're going to have more energy. And so my thing is trying to, in so many ways with this book series, is to help kids recognize what the ego is. You know what I mean? Like, seeing that Chunky is not a kid that's overweight. Right. That's just a moment in his life. Yes. And as he grows older and makes the right decisions as far as what he eats and, you know, taking care of himself, he's going to discover who he is at his core. Right. And it's not going to be, you know, the kid that is chunky. Yeah. It's going to be Charles. You know what I mean? He's going to grow up to be Charles. Chunky is the name that he was given because his sister couldn't pronounce his nickname Chucky, you know, which is short for short for Charles. So she couldn't pronounce Chucky correctly. She said Chunky. Everybody latched onto it, and therefore he became Chunky. Yeah. But that's not who he is. Right. You know, at the end of the day, he is Charles. He's Charles. He's a boy who is who's very curious about the world, and he's just trying to figure it out. And as he gets older, becomes a well-rounded adult, he sheds along with, you know, whatever baggage that may be associated with weight and, you know, being unhealthy, he sheds that and finds his truest self. And so, like, to me, I'm fascinated with the idea of the ego and who you are, not who you perceive yourself to be. Like, for example, for me, I say I'm an entrepreneur,
right?
And I say I'm an entrepreneur who is an author. You know what I mean? Like, I'm an entrepreneur at the end of the day. Like, I love engaging with people. I love talking to people. I love exchanging ideas with people and trying to build something from the ground up. And I use being a writer as that way. Like, writing is so subjective. Somebody can read one of my books and be like, this is trash. You know what I mean? But then you'll have a kid or an adult say, this is amazing.
And it's changed my life.
And it changed my life. You know what I mean? And so for me, it's like shedding that ego and realizing at the end of the day, who I am is an entrepreneur. You know, I'm a father, I'm a husband, and I'm an entrepreneur. That's who I am at my core. My question to you right now is like, putting your ego aside, who do you think you are? Like, where, in the grand scheme of things, in terms of like your career being a Marine, focusing on health and fitness and helping people, like, if you were to distill that into like 4 characteristics, like, who would you say you are? Like, do you see yourself as an entrepreneur doing things, or do you see yourself as like, first and foremost, I am this?
This is interesting. Well, I want to first think, I completely agree with you. My biggest issue, I think I've said on previous podcasts, is that I think the biggest issue right now in society is that people can't differentiate what they think and their identity. So exactly what you were saying. But for me, like I was telling you earlier with the simplicity, I just want to say I'm a guy. I'm a man. I think I'm very curious. And if you give me that characteristic. In terms of like psychology, I follow like Carl Jung. I'm really into the Myers-Briggs trait type indicator. And
I've taken that test before. I never, like, whatever the results were, it was like, that's definitely like, I can't remember what it was, but it was like, it spelled me out to the T. I was just like, But
then you also can change. So I can tell you, I'm 4 different types. One of my buddies, Rob. The trivial guy. Like, he'll break me down. He's really, really into it. He's more into it than I am. But I can break it down just for me. So I can understand who I am. And I think, break me down into who I think I am. I just think I'm a guy who's curious, who's very introspective into myself. And I've always thought this, that I can't help anyone until I help myself.
That's true. It's like being in an airplane. You know, like if you're in an airplane with a kid, you got to put your mask on first and then put their mask on.
But then my ultimate goal, my purpose is to help others. So my first step into helping others is helping myself. And then I can push to help others. And then along with that, I was going to say the psychological part of it is, I think as men, we are engineers. We have to fix things. That's just my innate instinct. Like, my cousin was, as soon as I walked in the door, it's like, oh, the power went out. I was like, where's the main room?
Where's the circuit breaker? Where's it? Let's do it.
Immediately, it was like halfway off, on.
That's it.
Oh, it works.
It was good.
I thought that was hilarious. They were freaking out. Like, they were like pissed off. It's like, oh, done.
Right. See, like you said fulfilled. You say that, and I'm like, okay, it must be a light bulb. It must be one of the wiring somewhere. You know what I mean? Like you said that, and my mind starts working. Like, what could it be? What could it be?
You said the same exact time as me. The breaker.
It's something like it must be something else that's going on. But it's so interesting. Like, there was, you know, with the whole mass shooting thing, like what just happened in Parkland. I was reading this piece by Michael Ian Black. He's the comedian. And he was talking about how, like, basically men are broken. And there's a reason why that all these shootings are men doing it, because his argument was, and it was a really interesting piece. Like, I'll send it to you so that you can take a read. His argument was that when women are growing up, we give them the leeway to express themselves, you know, express their emotions. Like, we give them that freedom, you know, and in so many ways, if a guy expresses himself the same way, we ridiculed them, you know, we treated as feminine. And so like his argument was that guys, you know, these kids that are, you know, shooting the schools or, you know, acting violently, it's like it's like this hyper masculine culture where it's like they're not allowed to express themselves in any other way.
Right.
And so ultimately it boils over and then they express themselves violently.
Yes.
And I just thought that was really interesting. Being a father, I thought that was interesting because it was just like, like in our household, like we have no problem having the kids express themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I have a problem expressing myself because my dad was the kind of person that was like, be a man, suck it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I understand.
It's like, you know, my dad, I remember distinctly I hurt myself. And no, I was upset about something and I was crying. And I remember my father was like, men don't cry. Only time men cry is if they're hurt, like really hurt badly, or if somebody dies. Those are the only two times. And I carried that on, you know, into adulthood, you know what I mean? Where it's like, as I got into relationships growing up, I would open myself up, but it would still be like a barrier, a wall, you know, like a romantic relationship.
They would have to like pry it out of you.
It's always a struggle. Like my wife, you know, she talks about it often where it's like, she has to pull things out of me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She has to pull things out of me. And it's like, you know, it's just being in that, in this world where, you know, it's believed and perceived that men are supposed to be guarded and put those walls up and not be allowed to express themselves.
I'm going to recommend another book to you.
Okay.
The book is called The Mask of Masculinity by Lewis Howes.
Okay.
Have you heard of him?
No, I've never heard of him.
He was a football player, and he kind of talks about his journey through the same thing. Basically, he talks about 9 masks. I think I definitely said this on another podcast. Let me see if I can remember this time.
Okay.
It's the Stoic mask that feel like nothing hurts them. We have no feelings. We just take things as they is, and the athletic mask, where if you're a good athlete, you're strong, you're whatnot. The know-it-all mask, where we have to be intelligent as well as physically. How
many you got so far? Is that 4?
That's 3.
3?
So,
okay.
Let's see if I can bring it
Let's see if you can do it. Let's see if you can do it.
So it was Stoic.
You guys watching? Let's see if he gets it.
Stoic, athletic, know-it-all, material.
Okay.
So what you have. The sexual mask, your conquest, how many women you've slept with. This is the hard part now.
See, this might be telling because these are probably the ones that apply to you.
No,
where you're like, these are the masks that I put on. Like, you're probably listing your own personal masks right now.
No, this is for me. Like, I've since I did it on my last one, it was more like I have to remember it for next time. The Joker mask.
Okay.
How we make light of situations. Now it's the final 3 that always get me.
There you go.
That I always forget.
Come on, Aquaman. You can do it. You need to talk to the fish?
I did the fish. Send me aside. You really want to know the last 3? I'll pull it up on my phone.
We can talk about it some other time.
All right,
we can talk about it some other time. But go ahead. You were saying about the book. So
so that really helped me figure out the mask that men put up, because I've always I'll give another anecdote of a TV show that I used to watch called Leverage.
Yeah,
remember that?
I love Leverage. Yeah,
it was.
I only seen like the first 2 seasons, maybe 3 seasons.
Same.
Yeah,
but I love their tagline when they first input the trailer. It was like, how long can you do something before becoming it? Yeah. So I think I based my entire life. If you were to ask my friends, like my guy friends, about me, I have a lot of other guy friends because I'm a man's man.
Right.
I knew that because I think at a very young age I was very just introspective, and I understand how to deal with guys. To me, they were simple.
Right.
Like, we like women. We like things that blow up. Basic. We like action.
Yeah, it's basic.
And boom.
We're basic. Ladies, we're basic. Really, it's
and I always like, whenever like girls talk to me about, like, I have this problem with my boyfriend, I'm like, just do these couple of things,
and then that's
you're fine. You give him like a video game, you give him sex, give him something that makes big noise. Yeah.
Now, getting information out of us, that's the hard part. But.
Yeah. But I think like for me, I had to learn how to like let my guard down with still being masculine. Yeah. And I think I played like running back, I wrestled, and I think at my senior year I played volleyball because I've developed the image of myself of being the masculine dude. So then I could kind of
So that you could, so it was okay for you to play volleyball at that time.
Right. I didn't think about that at the time, but now in looking at hindsight, I see that.
You see that. That's interesting. That's interesting.
And also with the Marines.
Yeah.
I literally joined the Marines because I wanted to travel. I told my recruiter that I was like, all right. Oh, no, I joined the Marines because I wanted a way to stand out in personal training because I was 19 at the time.
Okay.
No one wants to train with a 19-year-old who doesn't really know much.
Right.
So I was like, all right, I'm going to train with the Marines. I'm going to be badass. They're going to teach me their shit, and I can teach it to other people.
Right.
It helped. It did help.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I learned in the Marine, it's just more like mental strength, how you can push yourself beyond limits. But then I traveled to San Diego and I learned the West Coast culture of how they like to live.
Yeah.
And then their fitness side. So I was in San Diego for a year, and then I came back home to the East side, or the East Coast, and I really try to compare the two.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me. And then the more I brought West Coast culture to the East Coast, the more I was liked because it's different.
You became somebody. So yeah, I understand.
Yeah, so I was standing out in the crowd of many.
Yeah.
So the same thing with the book. It's like figuring out an anecdote that I learned from Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss spent like, I don't know, a couple months he made a book jacket for the 4-Hour Work Week. Of just like different color styles, color schemes.
Yeah.
Put it on different books that were on display and literally just watch to see how many people picked up that book, even though it wasn't his book. And then that's how he brought the orange and red colorway.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's clever. That's real clever.
Yeah. So I was like,
that's real clever.
It's intuitive. I don't know. For me, I can bring up so many things now because I like to, like, I guess, like I said, deconstruct people and figure out how people do it.
Right.
So I can also do it that way if I wanted to do it.
Yeah. To me, it's like, that's why I like meeting people. And I think that's why I like engaging with kids too, because like a lot of that facade isn't there.
Yeah.
And a lot, it's very pure. It's very pure. And, they're impressionable. And I do believe that with my books, I'm able to point them in a direction that not many people are really going to point them in.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Oh, do we need to do something?
No, you're fine.
It's cool. Like, point them in a direction that a lot of people aren't willing to take them, even if it's just the nugget. Like, do you remember the cartoon Captain Planet? The Planeteers?
Yes.
Like, to this day. I
never understood it. I still don't understand it.
I'm older than you, so I remember watching that cartoon, and I still recycle because of that cartoon. You know what I mean? Like the influence that cartoon had on me.
Morally, okay.
Yeah, because like what they would do is like, at the end of every episode, they would give like a little tidbits on like how to save the environment.
I tuned out. I remember the show.
Right. It's like, you just remember hit the action over. Yeah, and done. Yeah, but like for me, it was very impressionable on me because, even as an adult, like if I'm going to brush my teeth, and my kid, like he loves to leave the water on. I run in there and I turn it off because I'm like, save the water. We got to save the environment. Every week we recycle, and I know that even if Montgomery County didn't have like the blue recycling bins, I would still be trying to figure out. Yeah, like we lived in Memphis, and when we were in Memphis, we didn't have the recycling, but every week we would find somewhere where we could recycle.
Memphis still doesn't, or just Memphis in general.
Memphis in general, they don't. It's not required. Like you can take your trash out and just throw it out, but they do have like recycling bins that you could take it to. You just have to load it in your car and take it over there. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, I'll do that every week. And the reason why is because the influence that Captain Planet and the Planeteers had on me. So my idea with Chunky and Friends is the same thing. It's like, even though I'm not out there crusading, and fighting the good fight for, a better planet, you know what I mean? I still will do my part.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I believe that's how it is going to be with Chunky and Friends. It's like, if I can get a kid to say, wait, I had pizza yesterday. Maybe I shouldn't have a burger today.
No.
To me, that's a win. You know what I mean? If I could get a kid to say, oh, I already had 2 pieces of candy. I don't need a third piece.
Okay.
That's a win. Yeah. It's like, being able to plant those seeds to say the way that you grow up healthy and strong is by moderation.
Yeah.
By healthy eating and engaging in active play.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And it's like being able to get a kid to think about that to me is a huge victory.
Okay.
And, I get emails and texts from parents all the time that are just like, my kid is brushing his teeth and flossing now because of your book. And I'm like, yes,
Nice.
it's working. But I remember reading this Time magazine article. It was a cover piece that was basically talking about how exercise is medicine.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see what you think about this. This one particular part kind of struck me, where it kind of made my stomach drop, where I was just like, damn, that's actually kind of sad. So like what happened is that one of the reasons why we don't take fitness like as seriously as we did like in the 1910s, 1920s is because we started treating athletes like gods, putting them up on pedestals. So for the average person to say, I want to go out and play tennis, or I want to go out and play football, it's like they feel like they're not
valid or
if it's not pro level,
right,
they're not going to do it.
So okay,
and they said the article was talking about the transition happened in the 20s because like there was a time where it was always about physical fitness, and people going out there running and playing games. It's like I'm curious to hear what your thought is on that, because I feel like that's, to me, like I said, it made my stomach drop. It was really sad to me. It was just like, oh, so that's what happened.
Okay, I can move a lot of ways in this one. So this one, it goes to me is about morals. I personally think about, I don't know my history that well, but I want to say once we got to like the more digital age, even though like maybe I want to say probably like the 90s specifically, like that was like when I was born.
Yeah.
But people saw success happen more quickly. And then it was happening because people were different.
Right.
So our people were more, what we can say? I don't know. It's the
looking for the quick fix, you mean?
Always looking for the quick fix. Drugs were getting stronger. And at the same time, everyone wanted to be different. And I think that like now, especially with the social media, the Instagram, people look Instagram models. Yeah. So everyone they overthink. Or there's so much information nowadays. I bring this up a lot. Is paralysis by analysis. Since we have so much information, you're overloaded. Yeah. And then you just freeze. Yeah. So to me, it's not only that people just think about the pro level athletes and think like, oh, I can never get there. Like, I think that's normal because some people are just genetically freaks. Yeah. LeBron James. Yeah. Play basketball, football at the same time if you want to.
Right.
But it's like people don't understand their own gifts. Yeah. Our gratitude. Another thing that like Gary Vee says. It's thinking about like, what do you have and are you grateful for it? And I think that's like another reason why I always thought about suicide. And especially once I got into the military, I learned that a lot because people start thinking like, this is so hard, but they don't realize like they're still living. Yeah. Like if you wake up and you're still breathing, you're alive.
It's another day to go. It's another day to move forward. Yeah.
So I think nowadays with all these pros now, they just need to speak their stories because the media will only highlight the extremes.
They're not going to show the struggle from beginning to the point where they are.
There's always going to be documentaries, but then, LeBron won the ring. Right. Kevin Durant won the ring. Steph Curry won the ring.
It's a quick headline.
Tiger Woods, sexual assault.
Right. It's the clickbait. It's the clickbait. So my question to you, like being a personal trainer, I'm sure you see people all walks of life, you know what I mean? And you even see people come in, they're ready to go, they're rearing to go, and then next thing you know, you don't see them for like months, you know what I mean? My question to you is like, where is the balance where you can find that balance where somebody can comfortably engage in physical activity to remain healthy? Like the philosophy, I think for me, I brush up against the philosophy of go big or go home. Okay. I feel like that sends the wrong message for somebody that's trying for the first time or somebody that's looking to sustain a regular habit. There are people that definitely want that push to be like, go big or go home.
Yeah.
But there are people that don't need that push, that just need to just go. You know what I mean? It's like it's not even, you know, whether they're big or small, it doesn't matter. Like some people, they just want to be like, you know what, I'm okay with jogging for, you know, for 15 minutes or 20 minutes a day.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, as a personal trainer, like, do you brush up against that, or do you have any opinions between, I mean, in your style, is it really go big or go home, or is it like, let's move at your pace, let's do what you feel like is comfortable for you, and then you know, if we need to stretch it, you know, if we need to push you harder, then let's do that. Like, how do you feel about that, like the go big or go home philosophy?
How I feel about the go big or go home philosophy is it works when necessary. Even though as cryptic as it sounds, that's what I believe.
I can understand it though.
Yeah, because it's the same thing with me in diets. I believe if a style has worked for someone else, it works. But it may not work for you. Right. Or the specific person I'm talking to. And then with that same perspective, I have a hierarchy in my training process. My first step is always breathe. I will teach you how to breathe. I'll teach you how to breathe. I will teach you like simple motor patterns. Like I like to teach people how to run. If they're on the more overweight side, more than often it's going to be more of diet and discipline first. So that might go interjectively, like side by side. And then it's, I guess the discipline would be the next step after breathing. Discipline in terms of your life style, your life habits, and then your diet. And then from then we can progress to strength. Because I like this one comparison. I compare our bodies like cars. If you think of a Prius versus like a Camaro. A Prius is something that's slow, very energy efficient. Like it's good for its own things. Like if you're like a marathon runner, that's what you aspire to be, that's your purpose.
You're a Prius.
Boom. But then that's you. But then for the average Joe, if your job is sedentary, you're in an office all day, I'd rather you be a Camaro. Because in that case, you have a big engine, you take a lot of gas, meaning calories, and you run. You're constantly on the go. Because when I think of a Camaro or muscle cars, they're known for their drag racing. You're good only when you need to go. So imagine your workouts. I don't want you to go for a workout anything longer than an hour, to be honest. If your goal isn't to play like a sport specifically. And then just keep it up. And like we maintain those muscle cars. They take a lot of maintenance because they just run for 10 seconds at a time. So you have to learn that process. But with the Prius, you don't have to do much. Because you take you run longer distances. You take little gas, so that means you don't eat as much. And your maintenance is different. So then that's that. And then also I like to put those two to put the big perspective in, the big picture. But then there's always like the Camry. It's not as efficient as the Prius. It's not as fast as the Camry or the Camaro. But that's another perspective.
And I think for me, it's I feel like the majority of people are, in your analogy, Camrys. You know what I mean? It's like you have people that get up and they say to themselves, oh, I should work out more often. Or I want to work out more often. And what it is that in their minds, they imagine it being such an arduous and hard task because they see the commercials of like the gym where the people are clanking the metal and, you know, you see the person running the Nike commercials where it's like, you know, the person is sweating and they're exhausted and it puts it into their mind like, I don't want to feel that way. And it's like for a lot of people, I remember I did this post because, you know, I'm all about, you know, helping the children engage in active play. I wrote a post for my website that was basically like, go out for a walk. You know, do something as simple as that with your kids. Like, it's going to help you. It's going to help the kids, you know, and also it's a good bonding experience too. You know, like you're doing something. If you go out to the woods for a hike, it's physical activity that you're doing as a family. And my argument in the piece was that you might not realize it, but your child is engaging in physical activity. And it's like, if they have that memory in their mind of, I used to go out to walks with my parents after dinner, or in the middle of the day, we used to go before it got too hot.
Right.
They're going to grow up enjoying to going out for a hike.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, whenever I go out with my kids for a walk, they end up running and I end up running right behind them. You know what I mean? So it's like, something as simple as walking is a physical activity that people can do, that any other person can do. And it doesn't involve the go big or go home mentality.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I know, like, a lot of people, if, like, they're chasing after their kid and they get that adrenaline, they get that dopamine of running after their kid, and they're like, ooh, that felt good. You know what I mean? Then they'll be like, you know what, maybe I should take up running. You know what I mean? And make it a regular routine. And it's what you're saying. Like, to me, it's like the Camry, the Camry can become a hybrid.
Yeah. It can
You know what I mean?
hybrid.
It can become a hybrid.
You can put a turbo or supercharger in the Camry just as fast as the Camry.
Exactly. It's like, basically, taking the Camry and being like, if you want to be a Camry, it's okay to be a Camry.
Yeah.
If you want to be a Camry that has a Camaro engine in it, then so be it.
Yeah.
If you want to be a hybrid, then so be it. But it's just like, start off, just do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No pun intended. No Nike pun intended. But just go ahead and just start moving. Get going. Start taking those steps so that you can, make sure that your kids are healthy and make sure that you're around for them as well. So.
I got an anecdote from Tim Ferriss. I was listening to one of his podcasts. He recited this one quote from a lady named Mae West. I don't know what she's known for, but the quote was, The
name sounds familiar. I'm trying to remember.
I'm blanking on the exact quote, but it was basically saying, those who are shocked, or those who are often shocked, should be shocked more often. So it's that pain tolerance type of feel. It's like, women are more pain tolerant because they have children, and I think women especially can kind of shoot forward. And like, I think the biggest argument that I get in terms of like lifting weights with women is like, I don't want to look manly, I don't want to do this, I don't want that. And it's just social perception of things. Yeah. And then you talk to any of these like CrossFit athletes, like female athletes, like, oh, lifting weights make it look manly, right? And then they look beautiful.
Right.
So, and then it's just like believing in certain people or finding the right role models. And I think I really like breaking down childhood and people, or breaking down the childhood of people that I talk to, is because it lets me figure out their morals. And then I think morals is what guides you to shape you as a adult. Yeah, I think that's what you do with your books.
Yeah.
Try to input the right morals so when they grow up, like, oh, I've done this since I was a kid. Right.
Yep, that's the whole point of the book series. That's why I started off with him as a child, because I want the reader, the audience, the parents to see like, okay, everything turns out okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he's okay. He was in danger of becoming obese. And who knows if it was genetic or, if it was the habits, whatever it was, he made the change and he grew up healthy and strong.
There you go.
Yep.
And I think for me too, now that I'm thinking about it, I appreciate the children's theory, the children's emphasis, but I think now more than ever, it's I want to say like my generation. If I can hit them at my generation from like the 20 to 30, these are the people who are like lost. And these are the people that kind of become, either they hate their lives and then could become develop depression, anxiety, that kind of stuff. Yeah. I want to tell them it's not too late either. Yeah. Like, you don't have to be like 10, 15 to like, oh shit, I'd fucked up back then. Right. You can still change during this time. Yeah. And I think actually now more than ever, my clients are more in the 30 to 40 range. They're the ones, like probably 30 to 50. I have one 50-year-old client. I almost have like a debate every time. Day. But I only see him once a week. But at the same time, it's like are they just down on themselves? Like, I'm like basically like, I can't do this kind of attitude, or is it like
Like, why didn't I? Are they beating themselves up? Like, why didn't I start earlier? Why didn't I?
It's that regret feeling, but then it's not too late. Because I think what got this 50-year-old male client of mine, is I started powerlifting at 2015. I broke a couple state records.
Nice.
And with that, he was like, I like this. I admire you as me. And then I got him to like lift. Like his ultimate goal was like the bench 225.
Okay.
And like for the longest time, I think for the past 2 years, we had to like slowly develop his foundation. And it was this past Thursday, he benched 220. He benched 235.
Oh, nice.
And he was like, "This is awesome."
Right.
Like being 51 years. I think he's 51 years old now.
Yeah.
Benching it, like that was his lifetime goal.
Yeah.
And his issue was he had bad mechanics and he was always pushing too much pressure on the shoulder. And it was just like little simple things. If you just bring it back to your foundations, like whether it's your morals, where it's your mobility, and how you function,
right,
you can still change.
Yeah.
That's what I want to get to.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me, man. Like I didn't even thank you like when I just started talking. Like thank you so much for having me, putting me on your platform. Like I really appreciate it.
No worries.
Like,
no, thank you for coming by.
Yeah, these are like conversations that, you know, I don't really get to have like on a day-to-day basis. You know what I mean?
This is like taboo to me. Like for most people, I don't feel like people talk in depth about things.
That's true. Like I feel like you know, I didn't. It could be just because we're in this information age right now, where it's like we hear it all the time. Like things are distilled into sound bites. You know what I mean? And it's like things that actually matter, in the grander scheme of things. You know, like for example, we can look at what 45 is doing. That's what I call him, 45, the president. We can look at what 45 is doing, but it's like being able to, because he's the 45th president. That's why I call him 45.
Okay. I was like 45.
Yeah. I treat him like Voldemort. I don't say his name. But yeah, like looking at what he's doing on a regular basis, we're able to, you know, see it, and you know, depending on how you feel about it, you could either be like, oh, I can't stand it, or you know, the other side be like, oh, I love it. Yeah. But it's like in the overall grand scheme of things, like how is it affecting us as a whole? Right. You know what I mean? And you know, you could apply that to any article. Like if it's a Kardashian thing, it's like at the end of the day, does this really matter? You know what I mean? It's like, and it doesn't. And to me, it's like, you know, with what 45 is doing, those things matter. But it's like, okay, how in this world, how am I going to adjust so that I can be the best person that I am? Yeah. And you know, show that what's happening there isn't affecting me or the people around me or my family. Right. You know, like we're still going to keep pushing forward so that we can create the world that we want to see. So that once he's out of the picture, you know, God willing, you know what I mean? God willing, once he's out of the picture, then we'll be able to flourish from that. You know what I mean? We'll learn like from what happened there and being like, okay, well, this is what we learned from it, and this is how we're going to overcome it. And I mean, you know, no matter what side you fall on, at the end of the day, like we do have to come together. You know what I mean? We do have to come together, and being able to have conversations about like the ego and, you know, about how we interact with each other in relationships. It's not something that we do a lot, you know, whether it's on a personal basis or whether it's with a group of people. And I really do appreciate you having me here today to
anytime, brother,
have this chat.
I always like give you a plug, like where can they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Chunky and Friends, spelled out. Twitter, Chunky and Friends, the letter N. You can visit the business site, chunkyandfriends.net, chunkyandfriends.net, or you can visit the regular site, which is chunkyandfriends.com. I say the business site because you'll be able to get all the information distilled. Chunkyandfriends.com is really a playful site. So if you just want the bare brass information, like what is this, what's about, you'll find it at chunkyandfriends.net. And I think that's it. I'm on Tumblr as well, Chunky and Friends, and I'm trying to think where else. Facebook. You can find me on Facebook. Yep. All the social networks you'll be able to find us, except for Tinder. I'm not on Tinder.
Happily married, 2 kids.
Yeah, happily married, 2 kids.
Boom.
And, no, you're not going to find Chunky and Friends on Tinder or Grindr or any of those other friendly sites. Any of those other dating sites. But yeah, definitely. And yeah, please check us out. We are all, we're all over. We go anywhere. I'm actually going to Oregon next week, which is going to be awesome.
That's fantastic.
This week I'm doing some book readings over there and going to visit some bookstores. So yeah, I don't know when this is going up, but if you're in Oregon
next week,
send me a message and I'll let you know where I'm going to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. And as always, you can find me Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat. No. But,
yeah. No Snapchat for me. I'm not on Snapchat.
Sumo Lifts. If you want to support the podcast, you can cop some apparel this upcoming week. I'm getting a relaunch at sumoliftsapparel.com. And I've also started a Patreon account for anyone who's on there. If you want to help me donate. It's patreon.com/theketchup.
Nice.
Until next time. Later.